Hi everyone, Flavia here and welcome back. In this video, we're gonna be creating together a really fun note card featuring some sets by Spellbinder's newest collection named Aged to Perfection. So here on my desk, I have some of the products from this collection, which I love, and I actually wanna give you a closer look before we begin creating. And I also have some card examples aside from the one that we're gonna be creating today that I want to show you just to make you feel inspired. So from this collection, from the Aged to Perfection collection by Spellbinders, I got one stamp set, which is this one over here. It is a pretty large sentiment set with lots of really just hilarious messages, such as how old are we telling people you are now. I also like this one. Instead of grandkids, I got you this card. Then we have this one over here that reads, I hear old people like getting cards. Then we have this large one over here that reads, it's your day. You probably won't remember most of it, and so many more. So aside from the very unique and funny sentiments that we get to create with this set to make birthday note cards, I also love the very different style of the letters for each different clear stamp, and I think it's so much fun and very unique. Then right here in the middle is the die set that we're gonna be using today to make a note card. So this is named Dancing Chatterbox, and it comes with lots of plates to create this really funny character. And whenever Spellbinders has a die set that says dancing something, is because the character is gonna have the lower body, the legs, shaped like this, with a donut shape in the center, which will allow us to assemble these pieces in such a way that the character's lower body, the legs, they're gonna be able to move from side to side, which is always such a fun surprise for the recipient. So this is the set that we're gonna be using today. Aside from these two sets, I also got another die set from the Aged to Perfection collection by Spellbinders, and this one is the OMG die set. So with this set we have plates to cut out the letters OMG. So these plates at the bottom are very intricate, and these plates on the top are the ones that we're going to use to cut out solid pieces. So what I love about this set is that we can combine it with these other sets to make birthday note cards. However, we can also use these to make note cards for many other different occasions. And what I also love about this set is that it allows us to do the die cutting inlay technique, which is such a fun technique, and actually what I did when using this die set. So before we begin creating today's note card, I actually want to show you all of the other note cards that I created with these sets, except for this one that we're going to use later, because I just knew I wouldn't have enough time to record the process for making all of the different note cards. So I decided to save this one for today, and regarding these other two, I'm just going to show you the final result, which is... Oh, by the way, I actually forgot to show you another set from this collection because I think I misplaced it, but it's okay. I found it. So this is the other set that I got that was released as part of the Spellbinders Aged to Perfection collection. So this is a letterpress plate that we can use to do either the letterpress technique or the hot foiling technique. So this is a plate with a very long message that reads, how old are we telling people you are now? So this is also a great set that we can use to make really fun birthday note cards. So now I'm gonna show you the note cards that I created off screen, which are right over here. So this is a A2 size top folding note card, and at the front I hot foiled the sentiment using this letterpress plate and a piece of golden foil. Then I went over my stash and actually found a die set that was released a long time ago, which is this one. And by the way, I think this is still available. This is a great set for making birthday note cards. It has really great elements. And I used these two long ones over here to cut out confetti pieces. And I did use this party hat to cut out these very small stars. So I hot foiled the sentiment with a piece of golden foil, and I cut out the stars and the pieces of sequins from Spellbinder's Mirror Gold cardstock, and here we have the matching envelope. To stamp the sentiment Happy Birthday onto the flap of this envelope, I used another old set. This is by Stampendos, I believe, available at Spellbinder's website. Actually, I don't know if it is still available, but it was available at Spellbinder's website. Again, lots of great sentiment stamps, and I used this one to stamp the flap of my envelope. So what I'm really enjoying about creating with this new collection is that it is allowing me to go over my older supplies and find older sets that I haven't used in a while that I can combine with these new sets to make new birthday note cards. By the way, I hot foiled this message onto Spellbinder's Shimmer Black cardstock, which is a gorgeous cardstock. Actually my favorite black cardstock because it is so shimmery in person. Inside this note card, I added 2 white panels and I stamped the sentiment, how can we be the same age as old people? Isn't that funny? So again, I went over my stash and I found this other plate that was released as a subscription club in 2024. This is by Spellbinders, and I think this is still available. So with this set, we have these plates up here that I used to cut out this set of 3 balloons. And again, to go with the black and gold theme, I cut the balloons from Spellbinder's Mirror Gold cardstock and the string from a golden shimmer cardstock. So this is the note card that I created featuring this new set from the Spellbinder's Aged to Perfection collection. The other, let me see, 2 note cards. I have 2 more card examples for you. They are similar and I just love how they turned out. So to create these note cards, I used this set that I showed you earlier, the OMG, and the stamp set that I also showed you earlier. So both of these note cards are A2 size, side folding, and for this one, I stamped the sentiment right in the center that reads, "It's your day." You probably won't remember most of it. I stamped it onto a piece of cardstock that measures 5 inches wide by, that measures 4 inches wide by 5 1/4 inches tall. Then I glued it on top of a green panel before adhering it to the white note card. Then I used this plate over here from this really old set to cut out all of these small dots and green stars to match the green panel. For the die cut OMG on the top and at the bottom, I used green and light blue cardstock and a holographic cardstock, which I love. It has so much sparkle. By the way, I did do the die cutting inlay technique for each one of these letters. So I cut these solid pieces from green cardstock. Then on top, I added the very intricate die cut that I cut out from blue cardstock, and I filled in the empty spaces with holographic die cut pieces. And to add a little bit of dimension, I don't know if you can tell, but I used foam adhesive to adhere the letter M in the middle, so it stands out a little bit more and it adds a little bit of, I don't know, some fun dimension to this note card. I don't think you can tell that this letter in the center has more dimension than the others, but you definitely can in person, and I love the result. So I began by gluing the letter OMG in place with liquid glue, and then right in the center, I used foam adhesive to adhere the letter M, making sure they are all overlapping a little bit. So that's the design for this first one. For this second one, I decided to go with white, pink, blue, and holographic cardstock, and in the center I went with a different message that read old enough to know better, young enough to not care, which actually, this is my favorite message. So this time I decided to add some curve when adhering each one of these letters, and I loved the result. Also, just like I did with the other one, I used that die plate, that old die plate, to cut out these very small stars and dots, and I really think it made all the difference. So here are the two note cards created with this simple but very versatile and fun die set. So now let's begin creating. So off screen, to save us some time, I cut out all of the needed pieces to make today's note cards using these plates, and I'm gonna begin by gluing some of these pieces together with liquid glue. For some of these pieces I cut it twice because I do want to stack them up for dimension. For example, this is gonna be the lower body of this fun character, and because this is the section that is gonna be moving from side to side, I want to make it a little bit stronger, so I am going to use liquid glue to actually stack these two pieces together, and I cut these from Spellbinder's brushed black cardstock. So since I began with the lower body, I'm gonna go ahead and then add the shoes. The die plate actually cuts both shoes at the same time, and they come off connected, making it really easy to assemble. So this is how it looks. So next, I'm gonna actually adhere this piece over here that I cut from white cardstock, and this is gonna add some details to the shoes. So this is gonna go at the bottom like so, and to finish it off we have these two very small pieces over here that is gonna go right in the center. So when we cut out the shoes, the metal plate leaves engraved lines on the paper. I don't know if you can see, and that is to indicate where we need to adhere these smaller pieces. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of liquid glue in the center, and using a wax pencil I'm gonna pick up these small pieces and glue each one in place. Okay, so this is how the lower body is supposed to look. Now we're gonna set this aside and work on the top piece. So these round pieces are for the eyes, and I cut it 4 times because I want to stack up each eye so it feels stronger, because this is going to be hanging out and it will make sense in a second. So again, the die plate also left impressions on the paper, and that is to indicate where we need to adhere these 2 black pieces over here to make the eyes. So I'm gonna begin by stacking up 2 die cuts like so, then these other 2 pieces. I feel like I'm gonna end up using googly eyes just to make this character even funnier, but I wanted to assemble the eyes just so I can see what it looks like. Now I'm gonna add a little bit of glue in the center, and I'm gonna line up these die cut pieces with the impression on the cardstock. So here we have the eyes, the lower body. Now we're gonna adhere the pieces for the top. So here we have the white teeth that I cut from white cardstock. Then we have this piece on the side that I wanna stack up so it feels stronger. So on top we have this die cut that I cut out from Spellbinder's mirror silver cardstock. So to adhere these pieces together, I'm gonna begin by gluing this pink one on top of the black one. So the metal plate also left impressions on the cardstock. Actually, I'm gonna begin by adhering the white teeth over here, over these impressions, and then I'm gonna add glue around the edges of this die cut and line up this piece with this pink one. So for now, I'm just gonna add a little bit of glue where I plan on gluing the white teeth, this smaller piece over here, and I think it's gonna go like so, yeah. So now I'm gonna add a little bit of glue around the edges of this piece, making sure that I do not go over the engraved line. And now I'm gonna align this pink one with the black one. So notice here, that this pink die cut also has some impressions on the cardstock, and that is to indicate where we need to apply glue and adhere these other die cuts over here. So I'm gonna begin with this oval piece that I cut from red cardstock. Then I'm gonna add this metallic one on the side, and then I'm gonna add liquid glue to the sections where we need to add the teeth. So I think too big. I think this one goes over here and this one over here. Again, because the plates leave impressions on the cardstock to indicate where we need to add the other pieces, it really takes us no time at all to figure out how to glue everything together. So just like that, we are all done, actually almost done. So now over here, notice that we have these two engraved curved lines up here, and that is to indicate where we need to add liquid glue and adhere the eyes. How funny is this? So this is how it goes. This is the lower body. If you don't want this character to move, you can definitely glue these pieces together. However, if you wanted to have some movement, you cannot glue these pieces together at all. So we're gonna stop here, set this aside, and begin working on our front panel. So gluing these pieces to the note card is gonna be the last thing that we do. And in order for these to have movement, we're gonna need to use foam adhesive. So let's set this aside for now. Here I have a piece of cardstock by Spellbinders in the color Partly Cloudy, and I think I want to add some sparkle to this panel by using this older plate that I found over here. So this is the Spellbinders Magic Wonders Hot Foil set, and it was released as a subscription club for October 2025. So my plan is to hot foil most of this panel with this plate and a piece of foil in the color Polished Brass. However, I do not want to hot foil the whole panel because I need to leave room to stamp a sentiment, and actually I think I'm gonna do that first. So I just need to decide which one I want to use. So let's do the stamping first. I actually just trimmed off this panel to 5¼ inches tall by 4 inches wide, and I'm gonna place this panel inside my Misty stamping tool so I do not mess this up. So I'm gonna position this stamp all the way at the bottom of this blue panel. I'm gonna try to center this as best as I can, and once I think this looks good, I'm gonna close this door to pick up the stamp and use pigment black ink to stamp this sentiment. So I'm gonna close this door, press it down gently, open. I think it looks good, but I don't know. I always stamp it twice. For some reason, I always feel the need to stamp it twice. It can never be just once. So I think it looks good. So here's a closer look. I decided to go with the sentiment It's Your Day. You probably won't remember most of it. Now I'm gonna set my Misty aside. We're gonna let this dry before doing the next technique. So once the ink is dry, we can go ahead and do the next technique, which is the hot foiling technique. Here I have my Grima machine. I'm gonna turn it on, and while it heats up, we're gonna go ahead and cut out a piece of foil big enough to cover most of this panel. We're just gonna avoid the stamped sentiment. So I'm gonna use a pair of scissors to cut this off. I'm using the Spellbinders Pro Shears, which is the best pair of scissors. So when doing the hot foiling technique, the not so pretty side always touches the cardstock, and the pretty side of the foil always touches the plate. So I'm gonna align the foil with the sentiment down here, and then I'm gonna slide the hot foil plate down in place. Then to hold it in place, I'm gonna be using Spellbinders Best Ever Craft Tape, because I know this tape will not damage my cardstock once I peel it off. And now I'm gonna slide this off of my glass mat, flip this, and add more tape, because we cannot have this shifting around at all. So everything is secured in place, and I did avoid the foiled sentiment. Now I gotta wait for my machine to heat up. Once my machine is ready to go, I'm gonna get the sandwich that I created and place it over the hot platform. Then on top we need to add these 2 shims that came with the glue machine and turn on the timer. And in the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and grab my platinum machine, and after a minute or so I'm gonna remove this entire platform and run it through my platinum machine to apply the pressure. Then, being very careful, I'm gonna remove this sandwich from my glue machine and let it cool off on top of this rubber mat. And now I'm gonna remove this to review the amazing result. So here's a closer look. Love it. This is exactly what I wanted. So since we got a little bit of overfoiling down here, I'm just gonna go over this section with a sand eraser to fix this. So here I have an A2 size side folding note card, and using strong glue I am simply going to adhere this blue panel to the front of this white note card. So I'm gonna try to line it up as best as I can, and I'm gonna use these magnets to hold this down in place as the glue dries. So here we have the lower body, and again, if you don't want it to move at all, you can simply go ahead and glue both pieces down in place. However, if you want this character to have some movement, the lower body cannot be glued at all in place. So what I like to do is begin temporarily placing this piece where I think I want it to go, and then I will trace this circle. I don't know if you can see it, but I have a circle, and that is so I know where I need to adhere the foam. So here I have a sheet of foam adhesive. I got it from Amazon. It comes in multiple sizes, and I'm gonna use the medium size. Notice here that the round piece of foam adhesive is not too big or too tight, which means that this is gonna actually have room to move around. So make sure you choose a piece of foam adhesive that is not too big, too tight, or too small. So another trick for this to work is, as we add foam adhesive in the back of this bigger die cut, we gotta make sure that we do not add any foam adhesive that is gonna be sitting next to this lower body die cut piece, so it doesn't get stuck when we are all done. So in order to not risk messing this up, I am only going to add foam adhesive to the top section of this die cut piece. I am not gonna risk adding any foam adhesive at all to the lower section of this die cut, because I think it's gonna be just too close to this one over here, and if that happens, this will not freely move as we want it to. So this is how I am placing the foam adhesive, and again, nothing at the bottom half of this die cut. So now I am going to release the backing paper from all of this foam adhesive, and then, well, you could just glue this in place. However, I tend sometimes to not really trust the glue in the foam adhesive, so I actually like to add liquid glue on top of the foam adhesive just to be safe, so I know that my note card is gonna last a very long time. Now I'm gonna position this in such a way that it covers this donut shape cutout on the lower body. Okay everyone, so here is the dancing character. This is how the legs move. And I think this is such a fun surprise for the recipient. So we could definitely stop here. However, I went over my stash and I was able to find some elements that I think I want to add to this note card, such as this die cut piece that I actually used to create a note card that I showed you at the beginning of this video. And I want this character to actually be holding this. I'm going to adhere these balloons over here. So I'm going to begin by cutting off this bottom piece over here. So this is how it's gonna go. And in order for him to be holding these, it needs some arms So I actually found another set, which is this one. I don't have the name, but I think it was released as a subscription club as well for 2025. So with this set, we can create lots of breakfast characters, and I remember that with this set we get this plate over here that cuts many arms and legs for these characters that I think I can use for this one. So over here are all of the different skinny pieces, and I think I am going to use something like this as its arm so it can hold the string of balloons. So since this is a very thin die cut piece, I'm gonna stack two pieces just to make it stronger. So this is gonna be one arm, and of course we need another one. We also have the option with the set to cut out arm shapes like this, curved. It is better if you add these pieces before you glue the character down in place to the front of your note card. However, this is a last minute decision, so we'll see. So I think I'm gonna begin by adhering this one in place, and I guess to do so I'm gonna add a little bit of liquid glue to the top of this die cut on the edge. I think I'm gonna position this down here, and I'm gonna use a pair of self-lock tweezers to hold it in place as the glue dries. For this other arm over here that is gonna be holding the balloons, I'm gonna begin by adhering the arm to the string of balloons. I'm gonna place this magnet over as the glue dries. I think I can remove this over here. By the way, the eyes are cute, but I do think I want to add googly eyes. I have this tray that I got from Amazon, and I'm actually going to go ahead. I'm going to remove the black layer with a craft knife, and instead I'm going to adhere large googly eyes. I think it's gonna make it look funnier. So I'm gonna add some liquid glue in the center of each white round die cut. I'm gonna remove the release paper from the back of the googly eye. Maybe I should use a craft knife. Then I'm gonna glue this one in place, and I'm gonna add a second one like so. So yeah, I think I like it better with the googly eyes. Now I can remove this and figure out how on earth I'm gonna glue this to this character. I think I'm gonna begin actually by adding those foam adhesive behind each balloon. So these are the only sections that are gonna be glued to the front panel. I'm gonna go ahead and remove the release paper from each piece. And now I need to glue this arm behind this character. I think it's gonna go like so. So again, I think I'm gonna add liquid glue to the edge of this black die cut piece. Then I will position this where I think I want it to go. And I'm gonna use a pair of self-lock tweezers to hold the black die cut arm and the large die cut piece together as the glue dries. Okay, so now I should have stamped a sentiment inside earlier, but I completely forgot, so I'm gonna do it now. And just to be safe, I'm gonna grab my large Misty stamping tool, and I'm gonna position this note card open inside. I'm gonna use these magnets to hold my note card down in place. And now I need to pick another fun sentiment. I think I'm gonna go with this one. I'm gonna position my clear stamp right in the center of this panel on the right side of my note card. I'm gonna close this door to pick up the stamp, open it, apply ink to the clear stamp, and then stamp the sentiment that reads, "How old are we telling people you are now?" So here is a closer look at the finished note card, and I love the result. This is so unique, and I have actually never made anything close to this. So here is the matching envelope. I chose a craft color envelope, and I added a cardstock strip to the flap to make it match the note card. Same color as the cardstock that I used to hot foil the front panel. And I stamped the sentiment "Happy Birthday" using a clear stamp from this old set by Stampendos, I believe. If you're interested, I will make sure to list all products used in the description box down below, by the way. So here is a closer look at the note card, and I love this character. Since I had so much fun creating this note card, off screen I also created a second one, very similar, but with different color of cardstock. So here is the second one. Let me move this out of the way. So here's the blue one, and this is the burgundy one. So here is the funny character with the legs moving from side to side. I also added a set of golden balloon, and for this one I decided to stamp the sentiment "I heard old people like getting cards." And inside there is another funny sentiment that reads, "It's all fun and games until your metabolism slows down." So these are the two note cards that I created, featuring the Spellbinders Dancing Chatterbox die set, part of the Aged to Perfection collection. And here are all of the other note cards that I showed you at the beginning of this video. So I hope you enjoyed watching and felt inspired to create. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care and happy crafting!